Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for joining me. I am Abhinav Kapoor, co-founder and CEO of Bicky. We are a customer data platform for restaurants. We help restaurants access all of their guest data, track their behavior, understand who their guests are, what makes them come more often, less often, and then map those behaviors to the impact of their marketing, menu, and operational decisions. It's my pleasure today to be joined by Achilles Papakonstantinou. Nailed it. Achilles
Nailed it.
Papakonstantinou, Director of Technology at Beyond Juicery and Eatery. And we are here today to talk about menu innovation. I'll turn it over to Achilles to introduce himself here, but a little bit of context on this conversation. We've been working with Beyond Juicery now for probably about a year and a half, I would say, Achilles, or close to that. And I think one of the most fascinating things about their brand is, in my opinion, and I don't have as much track record here as some of the folks in the audience, but they have probably the best track record I've seen of menu innovation, just consistently delivering new menu items on a regular calendar. Some that work, some that don't work. We'll talk a little bit about both, but their approach to testing, iterating, and scaling a constantly changing menu, and then leveraging everything from Bicky data to franchisee operations to their supply chain to their marketing expertise at the heart of it all. It's just been amazing to see up close and personal. So without further ado, Achilles, welcome.
Thank you, Abhinav.
Yeah, please just tell the folks about Beyond Juicery. Tell us about your background, your role at the brand.
So Beyond Juice was founded in 2005. It's one of my favorite little stories. Our founders, Joe and Pam, were driving home one night, and they realized they couldn't stop anywhere and get fresh fruit. And that idea kind of sparked where we are today. They opened their first location in 2005. And towards the end of 2018, beginning of 2019, they started to franchise, and I came on board towards the end of 2019, right before COVID.
Right. So you joined at a pretty interesting time.
Yeah. It was good. It was interesting. That's for
right. Sure. Yeah. And then what was, I guess, when you joined as director of technology, maybe talk about the brand's approach to technology during that time frame. And sort of how your role specifically evolved over, throughout the pandemic and to where it is today.
Yeah. When I first started, I wanted to, first of all, get the lay of the land and see what everyone was doing. Things were siloed. The operations was taking care of this, creative and innovation was taking care of that. And we're trying to bring it all together into one spot and make sure that we can all use the tools to the best of their abilities that we had at the time, and then still started exploring more opportunities that were out there.
Yep. And so, like, if we talk about it now, one of the things too, as we were preparing for this, one of the things we talked about was like technology used to be very in the restaurant, very like nuts and bolts mechanical. Is the POS running? Are the tickets printing? I'm sure there's still an element of that today, but in the context of, as we think about menu innovation and scaling this brand, can you talk about like your approach to what systems you started implementing and how you thought about maybe the technological foundation for what we are going to talk about, which is just a brand with a constantly changing menu?
At that time, we still didn't even have an inventory platform that we were using, something that we could track recipes, utilization, cost of goods in a central spot.
Yep.
So that was one of the initial things that we kicked off. That was a long process, but ultimately that was the approach of working on the business to give the franchisees more accurate tools on how they were operating.
Yeah. And if we think about, like pulling up now to kind of the focus of this conversation, maybe walk us through Beyond Juicery at a high level menu innovation strategy. I think I teed it up here a little bit. We're just talking about the number of LTOs that you guys typically do. Can you talk to us about, one, how many LTOs do you do? How many menu items are within those LTO windows? And then maybe the philosophy behind that approach to LTOs.
So we focus on almost a seasonal approach. We want 4 LTOs or 4 campaigns a year. That's the goal. And it can range anywhere between 2 and 4, sometimes 5 items that'll come out. But they're all working together to fulfill a purpose, whether that's if we're bringing in new ingredients. We want to cross utilize them, and we might have, different items based on that. And the whole idea there is to keep engagement, right?
Right. So it's like
fresh.
year round consistent engagement, I guess, with the consumer.
Yeah.
So if you're saying 2 to 5 items in 4 windows, you guys are launching anywhere from 10 to 20 new items a year, basically. Is that the right way to think about it?
Yep. And again, limited windows, right?
Right.
Working with suppliers to ensure that we have all the ingredients we need for the run of it. And it's doable, and we've done it. So
yeah. Well, you guys do it better than anybody, I would say. And then when you think about like consistent year-round engagement, maybe let's dive into the engagement piece a little bit. How do you think about using the menu? Like, is every item designed to drive new customer traffic, or are there specific items that are designed to drive traffic versus others that are designed to drive frequency? How do you think about, like, does that play a role when you're building new items in the first place?
I don't know if that truly, like, if that's the catalyst that we're going for for that specific thing. What we want to do is stay front of mind and give both existing and new customers an opportunity to come in and try something different. So if you're a new customer and, Beyond wasn't on the radar before, but we launched a new specialty smoothie and that caught your eye, that's great. If you're an existing guest, that might catch your eye and you might move to that too. So it's for both. It's always for both, I think.
Yeah. And when we talk about the process of building one of these LTOs, again, 2 to 5 a window, let's call it. When we talk, how far in advance are you or the culinary team probably actually thinking up a new idea?
Yeah.
And then what is sort of the time from initial concept to go live in the stores?
I think the innovation and culinary team are always thinking of new items. There are things that we'll try even internally that might not see the light of day. So on that standpoint, there's always something, right?
Yeah.
And I think when there's enough positive feedback, or when there's, when there's a gut, like your gut feeling tells you that this could make a statement. I would say that it's about 6 months, right? 6 months of internal testing and through pilot and field before it hits the system.
Yeah. And then internal testing, is that just like, are you guys looking at just taste of the item, for lack of a better term? Is that like the primary barometer of, like, it's a new ingredient, something we haven't done before, and it's got to taste good? Is it like that simple to think about the criteria?
I think at the very beginning, yes, absolutely. Right. And there are things that have been, just amazingly mind blowing, I think the next step after that is operationally, how do we make it work, right? And you start paring back and refining it.
Yeah. And then paring back and refining is typically, you start with a dream state, and then it's, okay, how do we actually make this fit to the layout of our kitchens, or how our teams basically execute in store?
That's right. Right. And what our suppliers can handle for us, of course.
Right. Of course. Yeah. And then, so let's fast forward. Let's say we're through the initial kind of concept test kitchen phase. You're getting ready to test something in live in front of guests.
Mm-hmm.
How do you select the stores where you want to test it? And then what is the approach like to sort of get, because you guys are almost fully franchised, right?
Yeah. Out of 48 locations, we have 3 corporate, the rest are franchise.
Okay. So call it 45 franchise locations. So I guess, who are you targeting from a franchisee standpoint, where you're like, we want to test this new item? And then on top of that, what is the process like to actually get the franchisees on side to introduce a new item?
So in that process, we first iterate inside of one of our corporate locations, right? Just to make sure that, listen, you can make it from a technology standpoint, it's firing where it needs to fire, and you're able to fulfill the order. After that, in our field test, we have members of our franchise advisory council who provide constructive feedback, and we know, based on their historical operational excellence, that they'll be able to deliver not only the product but the feedback to us that we need in order to hone in that process.
Yeah. And then on top of that, I guess it's like consistent store training, or with the frontline employees. And then let's say it's live in, well, I guess, so your footprint is Michigan, Ohio,
Florida.
Michigan, Ohio, Florida. Okay. Is there even a geographic limitation of where you decide to test?
Yes.
Okay.
So right now, Florida being our newest out-of-state market, there's considerations on getting product there from up here,
From a
right?
supply chain standpoint?
Right.
Yeah.
So we historically we've kept it in the Southeast Michigan market where the corporate team can come out and troubleshoot things as needed. The training team can go out there and help and guide and things like that. So for now, yes, that's kind of what we've been doing.
Yeah. And then if we were to like drill in on, I mean, we'll get into specific LTOs and kind of the approach there, but if we're going to drill in on feedback from franchisees or feedback from frontline teams, what is typical feedback that you get where you have a hit on your hands and you're like, all right, we're going to scale this out system wide, and then also the flip side where there's pushback maybe, and I think that's one of the most interesting things that I think about is like you guys are, again, it's like 25 new items a year essentially, and so there needs to be such a tight feedback loop between how folks in store execute on these initiatives and how you're taking that feedback and constantly iterating on it. So I would love to hear, like, when you get the green light from them and you're ready to go, what that feedback looks like, and also when you get like a yellow light, like, hey, we need to pause this actually.
So it would be tough to pause something completely.
Okay.
Right? By the time it hits field, we're already in negotiations with suppliers for.
Understood. Okay.
Right. Okay, now you can iterate a recipe a bit, but back to your question, when do we know when we have a hit on our hand? Our franchisees will tell us right away. They have no problems.
Franchisees are not shy to share their opinions.
No. And also the opposite, when they have something constructive to say too, they will let us know right away. But it's good feedback, right? It's always good feedback.
Yeah.
So it helps. They care about the brand and the product just as much as we do, right? They're the ones they're working. They're getting the immediate feedback from the guests, so they will let us know.
Yeah. And then what are the metrics that you're looking for? Like if you look at checkpoints and you're looking at whether it's your P&L or your PMix or your Bicky data, like what are sort of the metrics that you're looking for to say, yep, this is hitting the mark. We got to hit here.
I think it's just a percentage of PMix and overall sales. There isn't a hard number that we go for. There is a number. There's in quotes, a magic number where we might think of keeping something or bringing it back as a main menu item later. Obviously, when you're working on LTOs, there's a window of supplies that you can get, and that ends. But based on certain criteria that it hits, certain metrics that it hits, we may bring it back.
Yeah, and then for metrics, like you said, PMix, I think probably average check, I would guess, is another one.
Yep. Average check, just general sales.
General sales. Yep. And then do you factor in like the guest retention rate at all into that as well? Or is that something that comes later when you're evaluating the success at the end of the window, let's say?
We do. We absolutely factor in guest retention rate, but we also see and notice that, we need to give it 90 days to understand what happens afterwards, right? It's a lagging metric there.
Yeah.
So at the end of the LTO window, 100%. During it, it's a little more difficult to tell. You're not seeing churn or anything like that at that time.
Right. Fair enough. Yeah, that makes sense. Okay, cool. I would love to actually spend a little bit of time. So this, I think, was a great foundational kind of backdrop to how you guys think about menu innovation and developing new items and testing them and scaling them. I would love to spend a little bit of time talking about a couple specific items. I think one that comes to mind is your specialty smoothie line. Maybe talk to us a little bit about the philosophy of the specialty smoothie line and why was it, I think in our prior conversation, you talked about it being a big departure traditionally from what the brand has done in terms of the core smoothie offering. So maybe just tell us about, again, the philosophy and then why specialty smoothies in particular was a departure from how you did things on the smoothie side.
So our innovation team and our director of innovation is just a brilliant mind. And I think he wanted something that one of our core values or taglines of missions is feel beyond good. And there was a moment where we could add value to people's lifestyle. Came up with this smoothie called the Wild Berry Glow, and the departure was that it was a more expensive smoothie.
Right.
It's probably something that we haven't done in our market before, right? I think you had mentioned this quote, but we're not a coastal town, right?
Yeah, right.
We're Midwest. Our average smoothie price is about $8, and this one came out. It was $13.50, but the idea behind it was not only gorgeous to look at, and it's weird to say, but you eat with your eyes. You can drink a smoothie with your eyes. It's beautiful, but it was a value to the customer in terms of it had 20 beauty focused ingredients that we added to it, and it hit right away. We couldn't believe it.
Yeah. And then was there anything surprising about the day? Because I think about like a $13.50 smoothie. That is for me, at least personally, like a meal replacement, essentially.
Yep.
Was there anything from a day part or PMIX standpoint that you felt like you noticed that maybe was this pleasant surprise? Did it expand in breakfast? Did people substitute it at lunch instead of something else? Maybe walk us through some of maybe the unforeseen things that you saw that were still positive for the business.
I think, quite honestly, in its most simplest form, I think the most surprising thing was that it was such a hit right away, and people kept coming back for it.
Yeah.
I don't know if they were using it as meal replacement. It is still
interesting. Oh, interesting.
They're still adding on a wrap and other items to it. So I think it's just, again, it's the value to their lifestyle. Their supplements and ingredients there that spoke to them. And it hits so well that we expanded the line, right?
Right.
We expanded the line to add two other ones that were just there. One that was focused on mood. So we have 19 mood boosting ingredients, and then another one focused on immunity.
Which one works the best for you?
Which one works the best? Obviously beauty.
Yeah, beauty. Yeah. Well, I think it's funny, right? It's like I think I asked you this yesterday when we were preparing for this conversation. Like, of the three, beauty, mood, or immunity, which one tends to do the best? Yeah. And I think you said it was beauty, basically, right?
Yeah, it's always beauty.
Yeah, unsurprisingly. But that's interesting. So you basically introduce a new line, and you're getting a $5 lift in average check.
Yep. And
on top of that, you're driving positive attachment with it.
That's right.
With the core food offering as well. And so you're looking at, a 20, I'm just random numbers off the top of my head, but you're looking at a 20% lift, essentially an average check for people who are ordering this one item. And I guess, what do you attribute that to? You attribute it just because we had a product. It took inspiration from, maybe something that was happening on the coast, and we brought it and we tailored it to our consumer base in our market. And it just spoke to their lives. It spoke to them in terms of value as well.
Right. And the marketing behind it, the absolute marketing behind it. The team does a phenomenal job of that.
Yeah.
Right? And, it's so different. It was so different that I think people just want to try it. They're like, this is crazy. I want to try it. And they tried it, and it tasted so good. And they're like, I'm going to keep drinking it.
Yeah. And so it's not only that, but then you're looking at the impact on, are people coming back for, the light went off. That's okay.
The light went off.
There we go. And then, are people coming back for that item, or are they migrating to other stuff on the menu? Is it a gateway item, or is it that one item is high retention specifically?
That one item is high retention.
Interesting.
But the brand offers not only smoothies, but fresh juices, wraps, salads, bottle juice, right? So superfood sorbet bowl. So you'll end up trying other things, because if you like something, you at a business or at a restaurant, you will naturally try other things.
Yeah.
But you'll go back to what your favorite is.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I think people always end up experimenting a little bit and then sort of settle on the core thing that they love. And we see that sort of time and time again. Interesting. And then if we think about like the marketing, you mentioned the marketing and calling that out as such a critical driver of what got it top of mind for so many of your guests. I guess what's the marketing playbook look like for a new menu item? Is it in-store signage? Is it suggestive upsell and training the teams to prompt people? Is it,
We have,
hitting up your loyalty guests? I guess maybe walk us through what the playbook looks like.
so just in general, we have in-store digital signage. We have A-frame traditional, just printed material that's there. But I think what does the best is through our mobile experience, where we can on the home screen of our app when it launches, we can change messaging there, right? We can target our current loyalty base based on what they've purchased previously and entice them to come in, right? So we're hitting them on all fronts. And then of course there's still the Meta and Google ads that you go into as well. But we're trying to touch the guest everywhere, just to make sure that they see it and have an opportunity to understand that there's something new. We don't want to forget that piece, right? We don't want to overlook it.
Yep. That's great. And then I guess shifting gears a little bit, if we think about, we talked a little bit about specialty smoothie. Like the flip side, of course, is LTOs that maybe don't work. And I mean, nobody bats 1,000 on menu item innovation, especially a brand, again, that is doing anywhere from 10 to 25 new items a year. Like it's, I think, impossible to bat 1,000. Can you walk us through some considerations of maybe an item that didn't land, and why you feel like it didn't land? And we can unpack that a little bit more, but we'd love to kind of just start there.
Yeah, a couple of years ago, we had a warm grain bowl that we started. It was pho inspired.
Yeah,
and we wanted to go after the evening day part. It was one item, and we ran it through pilot field and the whole system for the life of the LTO. We did not bring it back. Similarly, last year we experimented with a new protein for a little bit, barbacoa, which I don't think we made it out of pilot with that. And what we learned from both of those, and I think we're going to have a new offering of these at some point, was the amount of choice that's available. So I think maybe only releasing one item, you hit somebody that wanted that, but there wasn't enough variety of it to truly move that needle for that day part. That.
Yep. And when you say move the needle for that day part, can you just unpack that for a little bit for us? Like, were you guys trying to expand? I think it sounds like a warm bowl, so probably trying to expand at dinner specifically.
That's right. Yeah. The evening day part. Yep.
Yeah. Can I ask that? This is a separate, interesting wrinkle off of this, but how often do you do single items that don't work versus launching a line of items that might be loosely related to each other, and you have a handful of them work, or maybe all of them work? I'm curious if there's something there where, like, should someone watching this, should they consider introducing two loosely related items with similar SKU or like ingredient overlap, just to try and give the consumers choice? And is there potentially higher risk if you just do a single item, as an example? I don't know if you guys have thought about that, but I'd be curious for your take.
We have, and I would say that's business dependent. So it would depend on what you're trying to do and what your goal is for your concept. I would my personal belief is to offer just a little bit more variety in case there's one thing that just doesn't hit with you. Maybe that one right adjacent does. So that's my personal philosophy.
Yep. And so you're trying to expand dinner, and like you said, well, it's interesting. You took an item that didn't make it out of test. I know, like you said, it's tough to peel it back.
Well, barbacoa never made it out of pilot.
Understood.
Right. Understood. The Zen Bowl, our Zen Bowl that we had, made it all the way through system, and supply chain, everything was good. And it just ended when it ended. Yep.
How often do you bring items back? So like looking at a past successful item, how often do you bring them back and say, this is something that's just going to be a staple for every year now because it was such a hit, versus like constantly doing something new? Maybe if we rank those 20 items, how many of them are repeat from a prior year and how many are new, would you say?
They're mostly new. Mostly new. We have a few items that do come back. We've in the holiday time frame, we have a cookie butter smoothie.
Yep.
So that's very limited when it comes. We've been doing that. And then something that we were working on for a while, we brought it last year, was our grilled cheese and tomato soup. And I don't think the plan was to actually bring it back this year, but the feedback that had come in along with our Bicky CDP data on our customer retention for that product.
You can say it here. It's a safe space. We can say Bicky CDP data here.
Yeah. Ding. Anyway, no. So utilizing that information kind of let us, like, we probably need to bring this back in some limited capacity this year to fulfill a need for our guests. They want that in the cold months. They want something comforting.
Yeah. And I think this is the reason I bring it up. I said it a little tongue in cheek, but the reason I bring it up is we do have a bunch of other Bicky partners on this call, and I'm sure we're going to have a bunch watching the recording. If you could unpack for us what that, when you're looking at the platform and you're looking at maybe a prior LTO and you're trying to make the decision, should we bring it back or should we make it a permanent item on the menu? Can you walk us through like how you and the team sit down, what data you look at, what metrics you care about, and then ultimately how you make the decision to reintroduce an item, whether it's as an LTO again or bringing it permanently on the menu?
I'm gonna use one item in particular as an example. I will tell you that the team that uses it, we all use it just a little bit differently, but we all work close together on it. We had an LTO item, our Southwest chicken Caesar wrap.
Yep.
It was a hit. Yeah, we launched it at the time with some new salads. I think I was telling you, back to the supply chain thing, we didn't realize how good it would launch, and we had issues getting lettuce during the first week.
Right.
Right.
You sold out of romaine, basically.
Yeah, it was crazy, right?
Yeah.
It was a great problem to have, right?
Yeah.
And again, contracts, suppliers, that product had to run its course. We couldn't continue it.
Right.
But we started seeing afterwards, especially with Bicky, that item, how well it hit with the customers. And unfortunately, some that just that was the item that they came in for first, the only item they got. And once we took it away, we didn't see them again.
They never came back. Yeah.
But I don't know how, I can't give a huge number on what that was, but it told enough of a story from my end that something we need to look at. And there were other metrics that the innovation team looked at or the ops team looked at, and utilizing all of that information, we decided to bring it back as a core menu item.
Right.
We did a big launch on it, and it's been going great since then.
Yeah. And then
we were able to re-engage with those.
That's what I was going to ask. Did those guests come back after you reintroduced the menu item?
I don't know if all of them did, but a lot of them did, right? A lot of them did.
Yeah. And it's since, I guess, reintroducing that, how do you think, I guess, has that impacted anything else on the menu, or did that just provide another engagement lever for these lapsed or churned guests to effectively come back and then engage with other aspects of the
I think it's the latter there. It just re-engaged with them. It also allowed, our existing guests to have a little variety in what they have, right? And what they're used to every day.
Yeah. That's great. And now I want to talk a little bit about breakfast, because I know that's a big focus for you guys. But can you walk us through? I think breakfast aside, I think a lot of people come to this with a focus of, I'm going to launch a menu item to expand into a day part. I think the way you described it was actually an interesting wrinkle where it's like, we just want to be more protein forward. So can you talk through that protein, sort of like that protein centric idea of putting something on the menu that is more protein centric, and then how breakfast is the right vehicle to basically achieve that goal?
Well, I think the original concept was around breakfast, and then trying to change a habit, right? If you weren't already thinking of Beyond in the morning for breakfast, how do we get you to think about Beyond in the morning for breakfast? And one of the vehicles for that was around the protein content, focusing on that. Whether you're a gym rat or just someone just focused on some health benefits, being able to see that top of mind right in front of you and how it fits into your macros or your daily diet or your routine could help move the needle for that day part.
Yep. And so as a result, then you how many items did you introduce? Was it food centric? Was it juice or smoothie centric? Maybe talk us through that launch.
We had 3 originally we launched with 3 burritos and 1 juice, 1 new juice. It was our the first new fresh pressed juice that we had introduced in years. Since then, we've launched 2 more breakfast grilled cheeses with egg in them. So we currently have 6 total items there.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. Can I, a separate question? We haven't talked about this, but why did you wait so long before launching another cold pressed juice?
I don't know. Snake bite. Yeah.
Fair enough. No,
I have an answer for you there.
I mean, look, it's fair. I just wonder.
They were so good, you know.
Yeah. No, I mean, like it could just be the core ones were great.
Yeah.
I love this idea. I think a lot of people don't. I think another to add a separate wrinkle on top of this, like something that you guys do very well is revisiting old categories of the menu, and then updating them. Right. I think we went through a salad refresh recently as well.
That's right.
Is that right?
100%. Yep.
Yeah. And then what drove, like, so going on that tangent of refreshing sort of long-standing categories of the menu, what data were you seeing that drove the need to refresh that, or was it anecdotal?
Just stale. And back to part of the earlier conversation, there's some feedback from the Franchise Advisory Council that was asking, yes, these are great products that we've had, right? Great products that we've had, but is it time to take a look at that, right? Is it time to take a look and maybe update some things here?
Right. And then if you think about sort of the breakfast category push that you're doing now, how's it going? What success are you seeing? I guess, how does sort of this bigger push to expand in this day part and expand in this category pave the way for future menu innovation?
Yeah, I think so. We launched beginning of September breakfast, right? So we chose a time of year when schedules in general for the general public change with back to school, vacations ending, things like that. So we attacked it from that standpoint. And what we've seen is not only year over year growth for the brand, but that growth primarily attributed to that morning breakfast day part itself. It's clear as day that that's the day part driving it.
What do you feel like? So I was at a conference in October, in Orlando a couple of weeks ago, and we had First Watch on stage, talking about breakfast and brunch is the easiest day part to remove from your schedule. And we had another brand, I can't remember who, but it was Lunch Focus brand, said lunch is the easiest day part to sort of forget about and remove from your schedule. I would actually be curious for your take as a brand that does hit all 3 day parts. I would assume pretty equally. I haven't looked at the exact numbers, but I would assume relatively evenly. Do you feel like there's a bigger opportunity for you to drive more engagement with the consumer at breakfast versus dinner? Or would you rather them trade off of lunch? Would you, I guess, maybe walk us through, if a guest is going to trade off from you and engage from you consistently, where do you want that business achieving, and where do you think is the easiest to drop off?
I'm not going to go day part. How about that? I would like you to engage more in the winter. Like you're thinking of a smoothie. You're thinking of a smoothie, primarily smoothie based concept. You want to engage in the winter more. I think we're hitting the day parts pretty well. We would like a later, an evening day part more, but we're doing pretty good. Sorry, man.
No, you're fine. I can still see you for what it's worth.
I know. Whatever.
This is the problem being tech focused. Sometimes the lights just go off on you.
Yeah.
So,
Save the electricity bill.
What's that? Yeah, fair enough. Well, excellent. Okay. And then I guess if you were to distill, your top 3 bullet points for an operator watching this, when it comes to actually executing an ambitious menu program, what are the top 3 things that you feel like Beyond Juicery has internalized as like your key principles to menu innovation that maybe other brands just don't do as well?
Top 3. Man, you should have told me this earlier so I had written them down. I think number 1, it's the franchisee buy-in and trust. I firmly believe that we have very good relationship with our franchisees, and if they don't trust us, then the the launch is never going to work. It just isn't. So they trust in the vision and in what we're putting forward. Number two is just is operational considerations for them in general, right? What does that mean? Not every location has the same layout, and you got to make sure everything works properly, and you're not hindering things for them. And the third one would be just value, right? The value in what you're presenting, whether it's monetary or lifestyle or whatever, it's got to be genuine and valuable.
Yeah. And value means what? The right price point, right portion size?
Depends, right? It's not a specific thing. It's what that item is meant to do. It changes every time.
Yep. Great. I have a couple more questions, but we'll pause here. We got one question from the audience, and I encourage everybody who's watching this, if you're watching this live and you want to drop in questions, please go ahead. We got a question from one brand. They're launching their first LTO in the second quarter. LTOs are not something they typically do. It is a new capability, and they're trying to, one, manage the fact that their team is taking over LTOs. Two, they're doing something brand new, and three, they're trying to keep franchisee engagement high. What recommendations would you give to a brand that's launching its first LTOs? I feel like you could probably build on the last 3 points that you just gave: franchisee buy-in, ops, as well as value. But if you were to sort of talk to a brand new and never done an LTO before, where do you start? Where do you counsel them on trying to make that first menu launch truly successful?
I would work 100% with one of my strongest franchisees. I would work with them right away and keep open communication throughout the whole process, because you will do nothing but learn from it. Both sides will. The franchisee will feel like they're being heard, and you're able to iterate on that. You're not going to know everything that's going to come at you, right? We're developing these items originally, right, in a test kitchen, right? We don't know what it actually means when it's live. So that relationship with the franchisee is going to be paramount to its success.
Yeah. And does it matter if it's a single unit franchisee? Does it matter if they have multiple units? No. Anything like that? No considerations there. Just
no, I don't think so. From the start, I would pick someone you're going to get solid feedback from.
Yeah.
Right. It doesn't matter how many locations they have.
Yeah.
For this first one, right? Yeah. I'm not telling you to cannonball and get your feet wet and start figuring it out, right? And keep talking to each other throughout the process.
How long does that initial test period have to be? So we talked to you about your window being 6 months, and now I remember talking yesterday, you told me you can get a new menu item out in as little as 2 weeks. So
if we needed to, using existing items that are in the store without supplier considerations.
Correct. If you're remixing existing SKUs, yes, right. Good caveat. But if you're thinking, again, let's say, so this specific example, it's someone with a burger, and they're introducing another burger as the LTO. How long does that test period need to be? Rule of thumb, would you say? Is it just, hey, until you get it right, until you feel comfortable to roll it out? Is that the only thing that matters here?
Well, it could be. I don't know the other factors here. Are you bringing in? Are you already in contract negotiations with suppliers to bring in items that you have to get through? Right. It isn't just in a vacuum, just this item. There are all the other factors that are involved in it. I don't know what the right answer is for you, unfortunately. I wish I did, but at some point you're going to know whether you're going to market or you're not, and you have to figure that out in that window. So that's
a good. I mean,
you got to work backwards.
Yeah, no, that's a good answer. That's a good answer. Please, if other folks have questions, please drop them in the chat while we have Achilles here for a few more minutes. I'm going to ask one more very selfish question. We talked about it a little bit, but how would you say? I think one of the big use cases for y'all before you signed up for Bicky was because of your approach to LTOs. And that question, I remember Majo asking me consistently, are new people buying it? Are repeat guests buying it? Are people coming back after they buy it? So I would love for you to share with the audience. Again, we're going to have a lot of Bicky partners watching this or in the audience now. How do you feel like Bicky has changed your approach to menu innovation at Beyond Juicery? Maybe just lay out like where it's specifically helped you.
So we spend a lot of time in the P-Mix category, a whole lot of time. But I think more than that, the engagement piece and the retention piece for new an existing guest, the ability to see it, you can see some things from your POS and you can see some things from your loyalty platform, right?
Yeah.
Depending on your provider, but you're not able to dissect it in the way that you can in Bicky. You just can't, right? Well, I mean, I can't, right? With my current stuff, I can with Bicky. So we're able to see these types of engagements and then drop-offs, unfortunately, but every business has drop-offs.
For sure.
And we learn from it and we iterate and we hopefully we get better and we get better and we get better, right? And I think this breakfast thing is showing that, yeah, it's all these other learnings that we've had throughout our history to now. All the tools we have in place is helping us set up for success for the future.
Yeah. Yeah. And the last one I'll ask, since it's a future kind of dream state type of question, if you look at the level of engagement your guests have with your menu today, if you were to wave a magic wand and let's fast forward 12 months from now, you got another 10 to 20 menu item launches under your belt. How does that level of engagement with the brand change? Do your guests go from once a week to twice a week? Do your guests go from once a month to multiple times a month? Is a guest coming to you for breakfast and lunch? I guess walk us through, if you think about like, I want to level up engagement with my menu. Is it more people come in the winter? I guess maybe walk us through again, like magic dream state 12 months from now, after a year of menu innovation under your belt. Yeah. What does engagement with your guests actually look like?
Selfishly, I'd like to see it at least doubled. I'd like to see your frequency doubled for whatever that means for you, right? If it's once a month, I want to see you twice a month. If you're an every other day, I want to see you every day, right? I want the brand to speak to you in a way that you feel beyond good.
Love it. Beyond good. Yeah. Beyond good. And the last one, we did get another audience question. I wish we could end on beyond good because that's such a clean way to end it.
It's such a good way.
Such a clean way but we did, and I have to ask it because it's a selfish question, but somebody asked, how do you plan on using Bicky to scale the business moving forward as you grow the brand?
The way that we're using it today, I mean, I could say more, but we're knee deep in it. I don't say knee deep. Let's say neck deep in it every day. Yeah. But it's a part of our workflow. So I guess more top of mind for more people to use, but we're good with it.
I appreciate it.
It's part of it. It's part
of it. No, and look, at the end of the day, I said it's a selfish question, but the reason we work and build and sweat over this platform every day is to make your lives operators a little bit better, help you get a little deeper understanding of what it takes to actually achieve your objectives. And again, doubling frequency is a wonderful North Star. I love that as a North Star, and I hope we can help you get there. So.
Thank you.
Excellent. Well, Achilles, this has been excellent. I really appreciate your time once again. For those of you who tuned in live or are watching the recording, really appreciate you spending the last 45 minutes with us. Achilles, thanks so much again. Really appreciate the time.
Thank you, Abhinav. I'll see you soon, man.
That's right. Take care, everybody.
To Detroit.
It's coming. 2025. Detroit trip's happening.
Let's go.
So, take care, everybody. Thanks again.